Hello, this is Mr. Ware, and I want to thank you for checking out my video. Today we're going to go over solving one-step equations. One-step equations. Now, over here on the left side here, we've got our notes for solving one-step equations, okay? And in order to solve equations in general, what you want to do, or what you want to master, is understanding opposite operations. You want to do the opposite to the operation that is given. So you see over here, if they give you addition, do subtraction. Subtraction, addition. Multiplication, division. Division, multiplication. Square root means you take the square of. And fraction means the reciprocal. Okay? So, you're going to do the opposite operation. So what I'm going to do is give you some examples and work through some of these. I'm going to do 2 addition, 2 subtraction, 2 division, 2 multiplication, and 2 fractions. Okay? So, let's take a look at a couple examples. And remember, you could always watch the video that's given here in case you get lost, okay? Alright, let's take a look at this first example. So here, I've got 5 plus t, my variable. My number is being added to the variable. What I want to do is isolate the variable. Get this t by itself. I want my final answer to say t is equal to this. Okay, we want to find out what is it that I add to 5 to get me 10. So to do this, what you want to do is perform opposite operation. So since we're adding 5, what we want to do is subtract 5 on both sides. And that keeps it even. It's like a balance beam. Since we subtract 5 on both sides, each side stays equal. But it helps identify what t is. So you can go ahead and draw a line here and do this exact operation. Because 5 minus 5 is going to get us 0. And 0 plus t is going to be t. Now 10 minus 5 is going to get us 5. So we know that 5 plus 5 equals 10. Our answer is 5. Let's take a look at another example. Okay. Always remember opposite operations. And we want to isolate the variable. Okay, so now we have the variable n plus 6. What we want to do is subtract 6 on both sides. Okay, alright, and then when we subtract 6, 2 minus 6, and if you remember from a previous exercise that we did on how to deal with adding integers, right here we've got different signs, so you find the difference. 2 minus 6, it's going to be negative 4. And over here, 6 plus a negative 6 is going to be 0. And that leaves us with n. So negative 4 is equal to n. Alright, so that's addition. Now let's take a look at subtraction. So if we have subtraction, what we want to do is do the opposite operation and do addition. Highlight that. Okay, so we're going to do the opposite operation and do addition. So we got negative 4 plus t. Negative 4 plus t. So that's like adding a minus to that. Okay? So we're going to add 4 on both sides. Okay? Add 4 on both sides. So negative 4 plus 4 gives us 0, and that leaves us with t. And then negative 2 plus 4, same signs, find the difference. 4 minus 2 is 2. And since the 4 is bigger, we're going to leave it positive. So t is equal to 2. Alright, let's take a look at another example. Alright, again. Now, this could be written as negative 5 is equal to a minus 1. That's the same thing. So I don't want you to get confused with the addition and think you add or anything or subtract. What I want you to do is focus on what's going to isolate this variable. What's going to get this by itself. Okay, so you'll go the opposite of whatever this is. If it's positive, subtract, but if it's negative, add. So we're going to add 1 on both sides. Okay, So that's going to leave us. If it helps to draw a line right here, do that. So -1 plus 1 is going to be 0. Draw a line here. Bring down the A. -5 plus 1 is going to be different signs. Find the difference. -4. Alright. So that's subtraction. So now on this next one here, we're going to have multiplication. So on multiplication, see, it's multiplication because you have 12u. 12 times u. That's multiplication. So you go do the opposite of multiplication and do division. Okay? So with division, let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Alright, so with division, we're going to divide by 12. So you got -48 divided by 12. Alright? And what happens here, 12 divided by 12 is 1, and 1 times u is u. And -48 divided by 12 is -4. So if you plug in -4 times 12, what would you get? -48. Okay, we do the opposite operations. We divide. Okay, same thing here. Just because the variable's on the other side doesn't change anything. We're working to isolate this variable. So what we're going to do is do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. Divide by 6. Okay, and 24 divided by 6 is 4. And since it's positive divided by a negative, it's -4. And the -6 divided by -6 becomes 1, and 1 times b is b. These are one-step equations. One-step equations. The main thing you need to know is opposite operation. Alright, let's take a look at this one. It says here, solve for w. Okay, now here the variable was being divided. Okay, the variable is being divided. So what we do for division, we do the opposite. We multiply. So we're going to multiply this whole expression here by the number that's being divided, which is -7. So I'm going to take this -7 and I'm going to make it into a fraction by putting it over 1. But over here, I just multiply by -7. Okay? So that's going to leave me with 7 times -7, which is -49. Here, -7 times w is -7w over 1 times -7. See, we're multiplying across here. 1 times -7 is -7. Okay, and -7 divided by -7 gets us the w, just like that. Okay, so I want to show that step so you can see what happens. But really what happens is this just cancels out. Leave you with just a w over 1, which is w. Let's take a look at another example here. Alright, here we want to multiply by 4. So we're going to multiply by 4 over 1 and then multiply by 4 here. Okay, the 4's are going to cancel out. N over 1 is going to leave me with n. It's equal to 6 times 4, which is 24. Alright. Now, we got one more. We're not doing square root. We're just going to do fraction here. So here we have a fraction. And what you want to do is multiply by the reciprocal. So, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So, you got 5 over 2. So, the reciprocal to that is 2 over 5. So, I'm going to multiply by 2 over 5. And I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm going to put this over 1 so I can multiply that fraction. Okay, so 2 times 5 is 10, and 5 times 2 is 10, and all that's being multiplied by n. Over here, negative times a positive is a negative. 10 times 2 is 20, and then 1 times 5 is 5. Now 10 divided by 10 is 1, which leaves us just n here. And it's negative 10 divided by negative 20 divided by 5. Negative divided by positive is a negative. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So n is equal to negative 4. All right, let's take a look at one more example. You got negative 4 over 3 times w is equal to 18. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Now, this negative, understand this. You could write this negative in 3 different ways. You could write it the way it's written here. Or, and you don't have to write this part, but you could write just like this. You could write it as 4 over 3, negative 4 over 3, or 4 over negative 3. But the negative has to be for one, either the numerator or the denominator. So that's how the negatives work. Because if you had a negative in both the numerator and the denominator, then it would be positive. You don't want that. Alright, so let's go ahead and multiply. So we're going to multiply by negative 3 over 4. Remember the reciprocal. So I'm going to put this over 1 and multiply by negative 3 over 4. Okay, so this is going to get me negative times a negative, which is positive. 3 times 4, which is 12. 4 times 3, which is 12. And then bring down the w. Alright, and then 18 times 3, which is 54. And positive times a negative makes this negative. 1 times 4 is 4. Alright, now 12 divided by 12 is 1. So you get w. Now, here, if you divide the 54 divided by 4, you get a decimal. We don't want a decimal. We want to leave it as a fraction because we want you to simplify your answer. Okay? So you got to check to see if this fraction could be simplified. And a lot of times what you could do is just divide both parts by 2 if they're both even. So if you divide both by 2, you get 27 over 2. Okay? And it can't be simplified any further. So you got to make sure you simplify the fractions. Okay? But that's it. That is doing one-step equations for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and fractions. And the main thing you got to remember is that you want to do the opposite operations. Okay? But again, this is Mr. Ware. I want to thank you for checking out my video, and have a nice day.